Like I said, I literally was waiting just the 3 minutes to get the ads to go away, and then we're back. We're gonna do a flirty with Persephone. I hope this turns into a little song and dance number so we can just have an intimate moment. I was gonna say the timer is new for me too. So when I press the ad break button, like the ad button in like Twitch dashboard, what do you call it? There's a little thingy in my chat now that actually counts it down, so I don't actually have to look anywhere else. I can see exactly how long the ad timer is, so I can better plan the breaks. I love that y'all can see that too, y'all being the mods. It's like a little dialogue box. Thank you. Yes. Cool. Words. I promise I'm a professional writer. But yeah. So pre-break, we kind of went through it a lot. Aphrodite's whole section. She did sort of carry on her Orby. She handed her little glowing Orby over to Venus. And that's a whole thing I don't know that I want to think about further right now. It was an emotional moment. It was a very chewy topic. I don't think I agree with World War II as a topic being in this game in the slightest. Little Orbeez, yeah, it's like a glowy gold orb. It's like the power of the idol. It was a lot. Yeah, I don't know that I agree with it. I think that could have been done better and more respectfully and with less intense shock factor just to be shocking. But I think I'm gonna give it to that for now. And we're gonna flirt with our hopefully wife at some point. Like we're gonna try and romance this character. Never apologize for balls. It's true. The orbs are important. Hi, if you're hanging out for one of the raids. The vibes here are very silly. And we don't shy away from heavy topics per se, but I also like to be honest about them. And like, I would like to feel like the heavy topic makes sense for the narrative that it's in. And I just don't think that, I think a different intense topic could have happened. And we could have just avoided all that. But yeah. But yeah, so we're just gonna let's flirt with Persephone and see if I can see if I can be charismatic enough. Let's see. Did I do the right thing?
I still don't know if I did the right thing.
Well, it was never up to you, Grace.
Oh my god, Persephone is so low compared to Grace. I'm so sorry.
She's been in hell since the war. And you were only a visitor. I remember the last time I passed on my Eidolon.
Oh.
1952. I was married to, well, say you'd call him a gangster.
I can barely hear her. I'm so sorry if she's really quiet for you too.
Thug. Persephone saved me from him. Tore his head clean off. But
nice.
Before he fired a shotgun.
Oh, that's nice.
My chest? Whatever.
I love this lore. I love that Persephone is just sort of the queen of like making sure women don't get abused by their husbands, because like fuck yes. Where's the deity of that?
Do you remember who you were before?
I still am her. Chastity, that is.
Chastity?
You
oh my god. Yeah.
Names. I remember being disgusted I was ever that weak. Persephone made me strong. But it never really.
This is such an interesting concept. You're two people effectively.
History, our
where you kind of become a blended
like sediment around our souls. You can't let it bury
personality,
you,
I suppose.
You are the only one.
Like Trills in Star Trek, yeah. Okay. Like I said, we hit Persephone. You've heard of Persephone, but Persephone. Persephone made me strong. Now who has an external locus of control, right? Sediment around our souls. What a line, right? I do need to get to Deep Space Nine. We're close. So I've never seen Star Trek, and we are making our way through the Star Trek stuff. the series, and we are just at the beginning of season 6 of Next Generation. So we have gotten to the point officially where I think I can start Deep Space Nine. I need to actually do that. I haven't decided if I want to finish these, like all of the Next Generation and then go back to Deep Space Nine, or try to find something that shows they're concurrent, like try to keep up with them at the same time. I don't know if I want to do that. That's a lot of work, but it will be watched soon. But I'm gonna flirt. She's incredible.
You're incredible. You know that?
There's no
Smack
need to be
that
facetious, Grace.
No, really.
heart button.
I am incredible. It's true. It's good that you recognize this.
Okay, I take it back.
Oh, you can't
Flirting.
take it back, Grace. I would have thought you'd learned that by now.
Cute. Music. It's time. Apparently Will Wheaton is not older than Patrick Stewart was when he first started in TNG. Oh my god, I hate that.
After centuries of cruel injustice,
But I love that.
Everybody
Shed is my favorite show. Hell yeah.
against me. Every idol but for one
Persephone's song, let's go.
violent
Does that mean each romance option gets a song?
we couldn't reach a resolution, but you and I.
Well, you and I. Ooh.
I'm queen of the underworld, and you grace you. Something
Well, I do have Calliope's memories, so. The Apollo song was a love song, and this seems to be heading that way. Hell yeah. I think this also really confirms that Calliope and Persephone were lovers. This Persephone specifically.
Gods like me don't have too much to hope for. The rules been fixed throughout the ages.
Hey, have I met you before?
So
Right?
I have forged a daring path. I would like to make some changes.
Oh.
You see, we can win a revolution.
Right, go off, Mary Elizabeth McGlynn.
You and
I see your heart. We're gonna be charismatic.
Underworld, and you grace you.
I love me a musical.
Lost little girl. The first time we met, you called me that, and now I understand. Show it or not, I see your heart. You've got one big mouth on you, don't you? Yet it's me who's closing in. Think I like that mouth.
Told you that small, tall difference. You gotta give me. Woo.
You've
Aww.
Overstayed your welcome. Time to go home. Get out of here, Grace.
We hit the vulnerability critical mass. She went, no, I'm having too big of an emotion. It's too sincere of an emotion. Get out. I rolled a 1. Yeah. Tried to smooch and fail. That's okay. We're only in Act 2. By Act 3, we'll get our kiss. Maybe. Or she'll break up with me. I don't know. Amalia. So I have a dice roll bot. And my Nightbot has that functionality. And Amalia, you just got that nat 20. Tell me your terrible pun, oh pun queen. It's your day. Now Amalia gets to say a pun I can't groan at. Or there goes my Baldur's Gate. Yeah, I was gonna say, you wasted your dice roll. Now you're gonna like have a critical roll in Baldur's Gate 3 that you need, and it's just gonna be a 1. I'm so sorry. Also, our breaks are no longer, since I took so long the last break, we're off. I feel very off. We're gonna take a break at like 30 minutes in, like at like 3:30. To kind of be an hour-long chunk. Though we did get to hear, we could talk to Freddie. I might go try to talk back to Persephone and see if she'll say hello to me. What do you call it? This is where I had gotten with my save before accidentally writing over it. The tragedy. Oh no. Yeah, no, this was a great spot too. I'm so sorry. Okay. Here's Amalia's bad pun. Rip to your dice. Yeah, no, rip to your dice later. But what was the name of the knight? Stop giving me knight puns. You know these work really well on me. Okay, let's try this again. What was the name of the knight that kept trying to do better than everyone else? Surpass. It's really good. That's really good. It's bad. Why do knight puns get me? Specifically, there's something about them that actually makes me want to like shrivel up and cry, like just groan, and I can't because I'm not allowed to. Also, I want to give you another pun, which I don't. So now I'm being motivated by spite, and over explaining it is something I do every time to get past that initial groan instinct. So welcome. If you're hanging out from a raid from earlier, hi, this happens sometimes. Welcome to Bad Pun Land. They're good bad puns. That's how I know it was a good one. Yeah, if I ramble for a minute to try and explain it, that's how you know you've really gotten me, because that's how long I have to wait for my brain to stop just yelling. They're just good puns, Bront. They are. But let's go talk to Persephone again. I just want to see what she says. Sam, will you speak to me? Maybe. She's probably gonna tell me to leave again.
You've returned. I'm glad.
Oh.
I've had time to do some thinking.
Hell yeah, just
After
kidding.
Aphrodite's party, we never really spoke about the Eidolon and
She's like, I'm not
Calliope's
gonna talk about the
memories.
love song I just sang to you and nearly kissed you and then like tsundered out
Apollo told
and
me
just
a
went,
little
yeah.
about it. He did say I should talk to you, though.
Did he now? Is there anything you'd like to ask?
Many things. Will I feel different as I change? So for context, every time the idol's power is sort of transferred over to another person, their little golden orby, eventually, right away you won't remember the idol's memories, but eventually those idol's memories, I don't think superimpose your own, but there's more of them, so they become strong, quite strong. So you effectively become that idol. You might even take on their name, a bit of their personality. You have all their memories, so it's kind of interesting.
When all these memories start to return, will I feel different?
First, you'll have dreams. Places you've never been, people you've never met. But unlike with normal dreams, these will linger.
Yeah, your selves will
Then
kind of
they will
merge.
come while you're awake.
This
Sudden
has
flashes
leaving
or
camp and
snippets
immediately
of
returning to
déjà
see
vu.
if the companion has new
Sometimes
dialogue.
it
Dragon Age
seems so
vibes.
real,
Well,
you
that's because
swear
David Gator
you're
wrote this
saying
game.
it. If there's anything difficult about
Same
the
person.
process, is that it becomes hard to differentiate between your life and all these other lives you're now recalling.
It does sound confusing.
Confusing and often unpleasant, as not all the memories will be fond ones. But that will pass in time.
Well, I still remember my own life. This is sort of the important thing here.
You said it becomes hard to differentiate your life from the others. How hard, exactly? It'll still be me,
So
right?
now that I'm thinking about it, I
Oh,
do think
it's
Calliope
nice.
was going to pick us as her
Grace,
successor.
Would you say that you are who you are because of your experiences? The things you've lived and done?
I guess so, sure.
Well, all the things Calliope has done, and those before her, will now be yours. They will feel like a part of your life as well. Thus, they can't help but shape you. The Grace that is now will be and will have done so much more.
Interesting.
Fortunately, you don't have to deal with every memory. Each time the Eidolon passes on, the oldest memories fade, and that helps.
Okay, so I think that might also explain why Aphrodite keeps wanting to change successors and kind of do the whole, transferring her Orbi, her golden Orbies, to someone else, because she's got like traumatic memories. So I think she's hoping that with each time she does it, she remembers that less and less. But like, I don't know. That's just interesting. I mean, I feel like maybe over time they might fade anyway, right? But like, that's just, I have questions. How is fading memories a good thing?
Wait, how is it good that old memories start to fade?
Trauma.
Think of how old we are, Grace. If all those memories returned to you with perfect clarity, they would destroy you.
Yeah, but doesn't that mean you've all forgotten so much?
Well, far more than we remember. The further I think back, the more it becomes a bit of a blur, actually.
That's interesting.
You'll recall important moments. Some will be mixed up with the stories mortals tell, and you won't be sure which is the memory and which is the story. An idol's memory is a series of islands in a dark ocean, and they become smaller and smaller as they recede into the horizon.
That's a good
It
sentence.
sounds dire, but
That was a good
you become
sentence.
accustomed
That
to
had
it.
good, like,
It just takes time.
metaphor in there.
And
It's good.
now you
Or,
have
sorry,
all the time
simile.
in the world.
Kind of explains how they're still able to live around each other despite all their history, for sure. How many times have you died?
How many times have you died? Can I ask that?
God, Grace, you
call
can't
it
just go
passing
asking
on.
these questions.
I've lost track of just how many times I've passed on my eidolon. A
This has
dozen?
been Pro Writer Thoughts
It's
with
happened
Val,
less
right?
often in more recent eras.
And the one you told me about, the woman married to that gangster, she was the most recent?
I don't think of Chastity as a she. That was me, just as the one my husband blasted with a shotgun was also me. It was one
Interesting.
of the few times I wasn't able to prepare my successor. We were friends, yes, but I didn't know what Persephone was, and I had no idea.
So in this
what I'd
way,
just
this
become.
Persephone is a lot like
That
Grace.
must have been difficult.
It was more difficult taking over my dead husband's territory. Women weren't often mobsters in those days.
I love her. I love her. I love her.
Were you really a gangster? I've heard it said, but it sounds...
Let me put it this way. I felt as if I'd been blessed by a dying woman who saved me from a prison of my own making. I didn't know what I was, but I was free. I felt more alive than I'd ever felt before, and strong enough to toss an ox.
So do
10
gods have
feet.
superpowers?
Did I set out to become a mobster? Not exactly. My husband's friends thought I'd murdered him, however, so they came after me. And one thing led to
I love
another.
her. I don't know.
I see.
I have no notes.
Athena found me just as my memories
Absolute
were
queen
starting to
shit,
return.
right?
I wasn't permitted to continue doing something so noticeable, so I was carted off to Olympus. It's too bad, really. I was an excellent mobster.
I am but a simple gay. Okay, okay. We've talked about how I'm a bit of a villain redacted, right? And I've talked about my love of Emmett Selk and trashy men, but we haven't talked about my love of trashy women. Because they're not trash. They're gorgeous. They're villainesses, and I love them. And I don't get them very often in comparison, which is why I tend to talk about more of the guys who are like the villain characters that I like, that are just, I don't want to fix them. I'm just, they're cool how they are. I know they're terrible, but I love them anyway. Because they're fictional. So like, it's fine. But with Persephone, this is very much I will point to you exhibit A of why I adore villainesses who are unapologetic about it. And I adore it. And I just adore villain redacted. It's fine. Women can be murderous little meow-meows too, right? And I prefer when it's women, but women tend to also be a certain kind of trope that are meant for the male gaze. And that tends to also kind of be, I think she's hot, Your Honor, but I'm a little conflicted about how poorly she's written. That happens a lot, honestly. So I tend to gravitate less, but this is yes. That's all. I have no notes. I love her. Right. I support women's rights and women's wrongs. Exactly. She cleaned house. Good for her. Villass. Yeah.
Wait, you said that Persephone passed on her eidolon as she lay dying.
Sorry.
What if she had just died?
The eidolon
Y'all are
will keep
learning
us
a lot
alive
about
for
me
a
today.
time, even in the most horrific circumstances, in hopes that there's someone to pass it on to.
What if there isn't? What if Chastity had died before you were
Everyone was
shot?
being more eloquent.
Then
I
the
just
line of
present
Persephone
ass.
would
I
have
think
ended
you
then
should
and
quote
there.
yourself on that.
Oh, there are some stories that say an eidolon will go wandering, that it never really dies. And who knows if there's any truth
I was
to
gonna say,
that.
what happens to one that
It's
doesn't
not
get
exactly something
inherited?
we've had the opportunity to study. All we know is that many idols have left us forever. They've died, and that's
I want to
how
make
it
you quote
happens.
yourself.
It's a lot to consider. Assuming I'll even
You
have
did that to
time
yourself.
worry about it, what with the trial coming.
Either the trial will end poorly, in which case all of this is moot, or it will end well. And you will have plenty of time
See,
to
the way I
digest.
see it, though,
Yeah.
even objectively,
Thanks for the update.
if I
I'm
didn't
a
want
realist,
to romance
Grace. It's what
Persephone,
I'm
which I
best
very
at.
much do,
Now then, unless you've something else to ask.
Persephone was one of the most vocal detractors of me, like as Grace of being the usurper of Calliope. So at the very least, I've established to Persephone that I am not like bad. If anything, her story is very similar to mine, where something happened and I inherited that power quicker than intended. But I really think that Calliope was going to make Grace her successor or do something along those lines. She was gonna maybe upend the successor stuff because Calliope didn't like how things were run with the idols. So like maybe she wanted to do something with that and somebody didn't like that and murdered her for it. Either way, we were intended, I think, for learning who Calliope was, getting some power element of that. So I think her and this Persephone are literally the same, just the context is slightly different. The Persephone she inherited her powers from was accidentally murdered, saving her, versus murdered intentionally. So like I think at this point, this Persephone at the very least should see that I'm not a baddie and I deserve not to die.
I'd like to know a little more about the idols.
This is quite a
I am
sentence.
one now, right?
But she
What
was very much
constitutes a little
against
more
me.
in this instance.
Well, what are we? Where did we come from? If an idol is a soul that moves from person to person, it must have started somewhere, right?
Ah, the big question. To which the answer is, nobody knows. I remember the original Persephone only vaguely. Indeed, I'm not even certain she was the original. Was there something before her? How did she get her idol on? I couldn't tell you. Evidently, we wrote little down in those early days.
I was gonna say
or
diaries would maybe
forbidden
be
to,
great.
and our memories only stretch back so far. Anything beyond that simply isn't.
Why not keep a diary? Okay. One of these sentences is just tell me about Hades. Like you can't just ask someone about their abusive dead husband. He's dead. That's all you need to know. He's dead and he deserved it. You know? Like I'm gonna ask because I want to ask all the questions, but like don't ask someone about their dead husband, Grace. We stored our diaries in the Library of Alexandria. Oh my god.
Are you willing to talk about Hades?
Okay, at least
If
we
you don't
framed
want
that
to, that's
nicely.
fine. I'm just...
Incredibly curious how I ended up murdering my husband.
Yeah. I mean, not really. I know he
that,
deserved it.
Yeah.
But yes.
You know, one might think that my hatred of Hades began when he kidnapped me and forced me to be his bride. But honestly, that wasn't it.
I mean, it would be for
I
me.
hated my brothers and sisters for letting it happen. But Hades himself terrified me. He had
Was it not right? Like
I mean, one that
I would.
made
That
him
would
the
be
most important
a pretty
man
big
in
reason
the
for
world.
me. So have a good lurk, Amalia. Enjoying
Well,
wedding your
nothing
plants.
in comparison. When Hades began doting on me, trying to earn my favor, I swooned that he might deign to
This is like
think of
Abuser
me
101.
that way. For centuries, I actually thought I was in love, that the kidnapping was the best thing that ever happened to me. It's
Oof.
funny how our
Yeah.
perspectives change.
That power imbalance, though. Yeah, I could see that. How like maybe at first, especially if she was like younger, how like, oh, this wasn't actually such a bad thing, right? But then like you look back on, you're like, no, this was fucking terrible, actually. I guess we should continue this line of conversation, but I do have more questions of other varieties, but okay.
If you got along with Hades for so long, what changed?
Yeah, I was gonna say
I
the
did.
love bombing.
I grew up.
Yeah.
I was a trophy.
So many red
for
flags.
Hades. A conquest that he
Yeah.
expected to remain meek and
No, I feel like this
unchanging.
perception of Hades is not lore accurate to like the
Went out of his
original
way to
Greek
keep me
mythos
small.
of Hades.
I slowly realized that, he'd always been that way. Manipulation and arrogance.
If anything,
behind the
this applies to
handsome
Zeus.
sneer. We battled for centuries. I hated him, and I told him so, but he refused to part with me. He declared that I was his and would stay.
But if she killed him, why didn't she absorb him?
Belonged.
Can you not double up?
And that's when you killed him?
He had it
That's when I
coming.
killed him. Yes.
The
The first
The
time
cell block
one
tango.
idol had ever murdered another. Thank you very much.
You were punished for killing Hades, right? That's your question? Not so you didn't double up on idol power, it just dissolved? What happened to that? Like, also, sorry, again, I'm a writer and I'm also a science fiction fantasy writer. I love world building. World building is one of the things that I've been deep diving into lately, specifically because I have a couple projects going on. I have a novel I'm working on, and that novel is a planned trilogy. It is a space opera. It has 6 planets and a whole fucking solar system. I am very deep in world building land. So the first thing that comes to mind is just a ton of like questions. I like not trying to intentionally poke holes to be a killjoy about it, but that's just literally the first thing that comes to mind. Like, it's fine if that's unanswered. I don't think plot holes are often plot holes so much as things that the author chose not, or the writer chose not to address, and that's not important, so you can move on. So like, that's fine. But sometimes I do ask the question because I'm curious. So like, just to make that distinction, just because that question isn't answered doesn't mean the writing is bad. This isn't Cinema Sins. But I do compulsively ask because I'm a world builder through and through. If she knew that taking his idol on meant getting his memory of someone, his personality, I get not wanting it for sure. I mean, I love world building. I GM a Treasure Planet-esque campaign. Oh, Treasure Planet is great. Maybe if they were with the dead, there was no living body. That's true.
I'm guessing the other idols weren't thrilled with you killing Hades.
Well, yeah, they didn't know what to do with me. And Athena was furious that the most powerful remaining idol had been lost. See, this was before the war and before all the new rules.
Yeah, like Sahana said earlier, I don't really
once
like that the line, the delineation
We certainly
of
considered it then.
New World, Old World as World
In
War
the end,
II.
they
There's something
decided it
about
was
that I
better to
don't
humiliate
like.
me.
And calling
They
like the
ensured I
America,
did
like
not
Americas in
benefit
general, the
from
New
Hades'
World
murder,
sits very
and
wrong with me.
stripped the throne I
Um,
had wrested from his grasp.
No, no,
Which you
and
weren't
especially
happy
someone
about.
who she was from the 1950s.
I
Like, this
asked them
Persephone
where they
is
were all those years
a
while I
50s gangster
pleaded
wife.
for
You know,
help.
like, I
I was
wouldn't call
held
it the New
captive.
World.
And
Come
what
on
was
now.
I expected to do? What, lie down and
Yeah,
take
the
it
Final Fantasy
forever?
14 new
Because
X-Pac makes me
Hades was
very
more
nervous for that
useful
exact
to them
reason.
alive? No. I stopped doing what was expected of me the day I slit
Damn.
his throat.
Okay.
He would
Wait,
be targets
so
of the Titans for all eternity.
you murdered him in the underworld. There's a physical underworld? Yeah, I was gonna say, this is Cell Block Tango, and like, again, honey, we love you. I respect murdering your abuser. That's not a controversial statement to me. If someone was so abusive to you that the only way you could live and survive them is to murder him, cool. To me personally, I'm not a lawyer or a judge. I don't care. I think she's great. I don't know. It is somebody who's had an abusive partner in the past, obviously not presently, because I love Ian very dearly, and I don't want him to. I don't even want to imply that. We're honest. Actually, our 5-year relationship, our 5-year anniversary is in like 3 weeks. I'm super excited about that. But I got into this relationship coming out of a pretty bad one, and the one before that was even worse. So yeah, I've been through it, and so maybe that's also partially why I'm like, you know what, Persephone is right. Stab him. It's like, I don't know. They talk more about it later in game. For what? Oh, if Hades was the most powerful remaining idol at the time, does that mean like Zeus died? I mean, Zeus, of all the ones that deserved to die, it was definitely Zeus. But yeah, somehow we've been together 5 years. I can't believe it, and it's very cute. How did you end up running a nightclub?
How did you go from ruling the underworld to opening a nightclub named after it?
I won it in a bet with Dionysus, god of merriment.
Okay, there has to be a story there.
Well, the story is that he was a fool, but a charming one with many patrons. They built him a nightclub as his personal playground. And it was a grand old time for Dionysus in the 1970s.
Oh my God, I bet. The
assure
70s
you,
for the god of
but,
like partying.
yeah, he didn't know how to run a business. By the time Disco was ready to die, so was his stupid club.
Oh, Disco deserved
So
better. I
offered
like
to make it
Disco.
profitable. If I succeeded, he would turn ownership over to me. He
Also like
accepted
language.
because, frankly, all he wanted to do was drink anyhow. I was successful. The club became mine, and I kicked Dionysus out for never paying his
Wow.
tab.
Sucks to be him.
Dionysus ever sobers up, he might decide to be sore about it, but so far that hasn't happened.
Ouch. A little rude, but okay. Okay, there's so many questions. I guess we'll do what's the deal with you and Apollo.
What's the deal between you and Apollo? The way you two fight.
I've told you how he and the other idols stood by and
Yeah, I got the impression
Hades,
Apollo
did
just
I not?
let all that happen.
It seems more personal than that.
Okay, there's an old saying that no one escapes the underworld. But that's not true. I did. Once. Not long after Hades kidnapped me. I was homesick. And I missed my mother.
Oh,
Charon took pity on me.
Corone,
and
isn't it
allowed me to
Charon?
cross the Styx. And
Charon?
after that,
Is that
Greece,
is that
I
right?
waded through darkness itself to get out of there. Hades chased after me relentlessly, but
I was gonna say
evaded
friendly
him
reminder that disco
right
came
up
from black and
until I
queer
got to the
communities, but got
very
warped when it
slopes of
became
Olympus.
mainstream. I
And
hate,
who do you
yeah, disco
suppose
gets
was the first
undo
idol
shit.
I met?
Disco was great.
Uh-oh.
Apollo stood there. I cried out to him, begging him not to let Hades take me, and yet Apollo did as he has always done. Absolutely
Oof.
nothing.
What's
Hades was
Apollo's
thrilled.
version of this story?
And I knew then and there I could never rely on my so-called family.
Does he tell
for
it the same
anything
way?
ever again.
Like, does he regret not helping Persephone? I would like to think he does, but how can you not know where you're from?
Isn't it strange to not know where you come from? For all you know, the idols could be aliens.
Aliens.
Grace, you watch too many movies.
Yes, he says he was a
Gods are
shithead and
okay,
full of
but
regret, but it would have
aliens are
been
just
all at war between the
wacky
gods.
fiction.
Interesting.
Fine, yes. It
Alien.
is strange. No, our earliest days aren't the only blanks in our memories, however. We have many. And the last was the day Zeus called us all together to tell us Rome had fallen and we should prepare for war.
But he doesn't excuse himself.
work?
He didn't know what to do, but he doesn't excuse
tell
himself.
you.
That's good.
The last thing I remember after
He
Rome
should
was
say that to
1,000 years
Persephone
later,
directly,
in the
but I
16th
understand why
century.
she maybe would
I was in
never
a
accept
different
that
body,
apology
feeling
anyway.
As if no time at all had passed. Athena calls that period the gap. That's what it feels like. All of us experienced it, and not one of us knows why or how.
Interesting. What happened during the gap?
The gap you mentioned.
Whole
What
millennium.
was that like? Did you
They were
just
just-
wake up one day, or
They were just
I
vibing in a
wasn't
Gap
asleep.
store.
I lived. I had
Sorry,
lives.
it's a
I passed
low-hanging
on
joke.
my eidolon. I may have known who I was and what I was, but perhaps I was completely unaware.
It's interesting
All
that
I
they
know
all
is
have the
that one
same gap
day,
in time, though.
Athena came to my nunnery near Trieste, I think. The moment that I saw her, all the old memories came flooding back. My life during the gap was wiped away in an instant, and it never
But
returned.
Val, some of them were in the J.
If
Crew
someone
next
did
door.
that to us,
Yes.
they were powerful indeed.
what about Athena? I mean, she's the one who found you, right?
The
She
worst
must
ones
have
were
been-
in Abercrombie.
Athena
Oh my
woke up on
god.
her own, or so she claims, and spent the
100%.
next century rounding up those
A couple
idols
of them
who
vibed
remained.
over an American Eagle.
Zeus, however,
Hermes was at
was
Old
gone.
Navy.
What became of him, what happened in
The cool
Rome,
gods were in Hot
we've
Topic.
never
That's
pieced
the
it together.
underworld.
It's troubling.
I kind of want to make a whole mall gods now. Maybe I'll do that as a short story topic. Or a short story topic, a flash fiction piece, because like every month I try to do one silly flash fic for patrons and Ko-fi supporters and stuff. Just for sillies to have y'all do that instead of small gods, mall gods. Okay, yes. I'm putting a marker here. Mall gods. Let's go. Yeah, this is the marker moment. Yes, I'm remembering this. Let's go. Who was in Torrid? Oh, that's a good question. People who preferred Torrid over Hot Topic. Aphrodite. Yeah. Aphrodite. Artemis. Oh, that's a fun one. Who would be in, this is completely derailing, but uh I'm just literally thinking of the mall near us, like what stores are in there still. Aries is in Dick's Sporting Good. So for those of you who don't know, if you're not in this region, because Dick's Sporting Goods does not exist where I'm from, or it might now, but when I lived in Houston, I never saw one. I had never heard of one till I moved here. So I feel like if any of the Brits are hanging out, if Molly's just like, the what now? uh, what do you call it? Dick's Sporting Goods is like a sporting store, but I don't know why it's called Dick's. It's just very funny. I don't know. They have like shoes and hiking gear and like running clothes and there's just a bunch of like stuff like that, but I don't know why it's called that. Also BJ's as a grocery store chain, I think. I didn't know what that was for the longest time. I thought Kat, I thought you were talking about BJ's the restaurant. I was like, what? Oh my god, Hephaestus was in the Sharper Image. Yes, there's always one like glasses store or like several like glasses stores in a mall. Dionysus was definitely in Spencer's. I worked at BJ's in college in their bakery department. That's so cool. Yeah, I had no idea. That's definitely not a store chain in Texas. Well, Texas has HEB. They have their own like regional weird chain. Oh, it's not too weird, but you know. I had a BJ's a few times in Florida. Sorry, that's a sentence. I'm mature. Tell me more about the war. It's not a sentence I really care to ask, but it's a question mark.
On all of you.
That's putting it mildly.
HEB is actually pretty great. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of miss
everyone.
it. I had a lot of stuff. Great BJ's in Florida. It's the only good thing in Florida.
Honestly, after my mother was murdered, I barely remember.
Your mother?
Her name was Demeter. Not truly my mother, but an idol who had always cared for me since the early days.
I find this interesting. They're not actually related, but they treat it like they are. I have some questions.
Bastards down on us. Demeter was slain by bullets. By bullets. Until that day, I had believed we were untouchable.
That feels like a typo that the voice actor like ran with. Buc-ee's is the best, aka the only good thing in Texas. If you find yourself in Texas for any reason, A, I'm sorry. B, I'm sorry again because the current political climate is very terrible. C, make your way to a Buc-ee's. Caffeine headache. Thank you for that follow and reminder that I do in fact have one of those slightly. Welcome on in. Thank you. Buc-ee's is great. Get yourself the weird merch. I always wondered why it was a beaver because beavers don't exist in Texas, but apparently it was someone's nickname and that's why that's the store chain mascot is a beaver. But like there are no beavers in Texas, or at least not in Southeast Texas. But yeah. Ian loves Buc-ee's because he's like a diehard New Yorker, right? Like he grew up in Queens, like he loves New York. If we ever made enough money, we would probably move back there. I have only been there like 3 times, but like he's very much a New Yorker, but he is fascinated by Buc-ee's as a concept. So he loves Buc-ee's because like it's a really good gas station food chain. I guess it's a food chain. It's like a gas stop chain. And they have the cleanest bathrooms. So like if you're on a road trip through Texas, stop at a Buc-ee's. It's like not sponsored, but like I guess if they want to sponsor my queer ass, please do. make people in Texas mad about it. Why did Ares do it?
Why would he's Ares got a war. Do that? Did he get anything out of it in the end, or?
Sorry, I forgot we were talking about a serious topic in this game, and we were talking about Buc-ee's.
A few of us hunted him down and made sure he paid for his betrayal. He choked on his own blood.
So if they
Never
murdered
mind, he
him,
did
again, none of them got his
He
powers.
thought us a lost cause. He wanted glory. He wanted more than we had, living in secret. After that, I don't know. We went from hiding place to hiding place. I didn't even know what Hephaestus had done for us when I found myself on a boat.
I'm on a boat.
We might have been
I'm
gods
on a boat.
once, but after the
Everybody
war,
look at me.
we were just refugees, like so many others, fleeing to a distant land.
I don't like, again, you have this image of refugees and then the New World. How can you call them refugees and also call like the US, the Americas in general, like the New World? No. No.
Was it hard for the idols to come to
Dad.
the New World? It's just a place like any other, isn't it?
Well, it wasn't the place that was hard, it was the fear. We knew we were vulnerable. We knew mortals could and would kill us. Suddenly, there were rules. We had to be secret. We had to stay close together. We huddled in the shadows and quaked each time the mortals so much as breathed in our direction. We couldn't all live that way. Some of us drifted away, faded into the night without so much as an explanation. That's what's been the hard part. Our inevitable decline in a place where we don't belong. We can pass on our eidolons as often as we like, but it will never truly be home.
Interesting.
Tell me more about Calliope.
I mean, just say you were in hiding,
You and her were
right?
good
Like,
friends, right?
that's a pretty common story, especially in World War II.
And
Being
if
like
you had
refugees
told
from
me a
World War
decade
II is
ago that I
not
would
really
become
weird.
close to one of
No
the
one called
muses,
it the
I
New
would
World,
laugh in
did
your
they?
face.
If they
I
did,
always
that's so
considered
weird.
them Apollo's creatures.
I don't feel like they were.
Calliope,
They were calling it that
Parhelia,
in the 50s.
vapid, frivolous gods who handed off their eidolon to any artist who took their fancy.
It's a
Every time I
choice.
met
A
one of
choice
them,
was
they were
made.
someone else. Apollo called
What
them
was happening with the
sisters
idols
of
from 1600 to the
beauty, no matter their
1940s
gender.
then? I just have so many
Can you imagine
questions.
that?
Same.
Such a
Right?
stupid name.
I never thought of that. Do
It
idols
seems kind of
change
odd that they
gender
added a
lot?
note about the game
Well, we
being
tend
made
to
on
seek
stolen
out
land.
successors like
Yes,
ourselves,
agreed.
but
I
it happens.
muted
With the
myself on
muses,
accident. Hold
it
on. I
happened
meant to
too.
hit buy. I got excited. I
Everywhere
pressed the wrong
Apollo went,
buttons.
they surrounded him
I
like
agree with you. I find it
proud
very
ducklings,
interesting that they made it
just
very
like him
clear.
to
I
gather
love
his
that
own
at the very
fans.
beginning that it's a Canadian game dev, right? I believe so. I think it's made in Canada anyway. Anyway, they make it clear that they made this game from like land that was like stolen land from indigenous peoples, and made in Australia. Canada. I'm so sorry. Anyway, they still made it clear that they were making it on land made from, stolen from indigenous peoples. And I found that very fascinating. He moved from Canada to Australia. Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting. Well, I still think it's an interesting choice to have that. I thought that was really cool. And then to have this New World terminology, I was just very like, I just don't understand where you thought that this would be anything but colonizery language. Like, did somebody bring that up in the writing room? Maybe no. And again, it's not like a deal breaker, but I just find it's an interesting tonal dissonance, and again, kind of just always being mindful of having representation, having sensitivity readers, getting consultation from people who are actually like of marginalized groups. Because a white guy, I know I know David Gator's a gay guy, but like he's still a gay white guy, so you need to consult with other people who aren't white and don't have that privilege. It's important. It's more than a checklist. Exactly. Yeah. Or like it goes to show you can have land acknowledgements without deeper thinking about the themes and systems. Yeah, obviously. Yeah, 100%. It's interesting to think about too, because like it's a step in the right direction. I think a lot of games should just, have that. I think it'd be really awesome. I remember seeing that and reading and going, fuck yeah, this is really cool. But I find the New World terminology incredibly, like, it grates on me as like a second gen, you know what I mean? Like my dad's family is from Mexico. It just feels very, I don't know, it grates on me a little bit. Welcome back, Amalia. I'm glad you wet your plants. Yeah, looking at the devs say they aren't all white, but maybe someone to say like, hey, there's an association with saying New World for Americans. Yeah,
If you disliked the muses
I
so
just
much,
feel it
how did
feels
you end up
very
becoming friends with Calliope?
colonizer.
She sought me out. She'd become more and more
I
unhappy.
just feel like a
with Olympus,
Canadian would know that, or
so
maybe
she
it's not the
decided
same in
to
Canada.
leave just as I had, long before.
Maybe I'm making
Calliope
that
asked for my
assumption.
help, and
Even ex-Canadian,
I
like you grew up in
laughed in her
Canada, I feel like you would
face.
know.
Go ask one of your sycophant mortals, I told
I
her.
scared a literal bee.
Surely
Oh,
one of them
nice.
has some threadbare couch you can sleep on.
Wow.
Typically, she was undeterred. She didn't just want a place to stay. She said she wanted to learn how to be truly independent from an idol who had mastered it.
Huh.
What can I say? I mean, I am a sucker for a well-timed compliment.
I love Persephone though.
I
It
took her in.
was a very good conversation. I'm sorry I
Apollo was
rambled through a lot of
furious.
it.
He and Calliope were barely speaking, but he was certain she'd come crawling back to Olympus. Oh, it made taking her in all the
I love
sweeter.
Persephone's like, of course I helped her.
After you took Calliope in, that's when you became friends?
As
Well,
someone also from
not
Treaty
right
6, a
away.
very earnest
I
land
wasn't
acknowledgement
looking
and
for a
buying
friend.
into trappings of
What I was
colonial is
looking
pretty
for was
Canadian,
an opening
unfortunately.
act in
Ugh,
the club.
yeah.
Calliope
And like you
entertained me
hate
for
to see it,
years,
right?
and
It's such a good
eventually
starting,
turned
and you're
from
just like,
performing
oh, you
to
didn't quite stick
attracting
the
me
landing on that.
back.
Also, welcome on
She
in.
was impeccable.
Sorry you came in on like a kind of more serious
She and
conversation,
I,
but thank you for the
well, we
input.
warmed up to each other
Yeah, I kind of
eventually.
hate that though.
She was more
You know
capable
what I mean?
than I expected, and I adored her furious rants.
No, Canada very much
Calliope didn't
thought
seem
of
like the
was very
furious
much thought of
type
as
when
the
I
New
met her.
World, and we still are treat
That's
our
hard to
indigenous people
picture.
like shit. Yeah, I know there's a
Oh, then you
huge
didn't
history
really
there that I
meet
don't.
her.
It's different from the
She was
U.S.
an
and it's
idealist.
not quite
Nobody could
like
ever
I need
quite
to
live
do more
up to
research
her
on it, quite frankly.
standards for very long. Her
I
brothers
wish it
and
were, but
sisters, least of
unsurprising. I
all.
know.
The idols
You
needed to
wish.
change, she
You
said.
wish things were better,
They were
right?
withering away in the shadows,
Or at least someone who
diminished
wants to
and
do that due
unwilling to
diligence
save
actually
their own
does it. It's why I have so much
skins.
anxiety as like a
When I joined the
biracial,
course,
like
she
Mexican
expected
American
me to
person. I'm
change
like, I don't
everything,
want to fuck that up.
as if
I
I
get
could
so stressed
single-handedly
about it.
override Athena. I was to be her champion, and together we would bring revolution to the idols. Well, I was yet another disappointment. She left the club, but I gave her a place to live. We were supposed to stay in touch, but you know how it went from there.
Okay. So that's kind of how we got to this point. What happened to the other muses?
You mentioned 2 others. Were they lost in the war?
One of them was, though not like you think. The day we were to leave on the ship, Talia simply never showed up.
Interesting.
Do you know what happened to her?
We never heard from her again. Apollo thrashed about in mourning, but Talia had been fading away for years. It wasn't a surprise to the rest of us.
Canada
What
likes
about
to
the
pretend
other
we're
muse?
nice by sweeping the
Cleo.
unsavory parts of our history
Died
under the
long
rug.
before.
Yeah. I've heard that
A
before.
victim at the hands of a mortal man, when she no
I
longer
hate it. I
possessed
hate
the
to see
power
it.
to bedazzle him.
Both
As I
Persephone and
understand it, he
Apollo
kept her
give
in a
this
cage
background.
as a
Ooh.
pet until her eidolon shriveled up and perished. It was dead before she was.
Wow.
Ugh, that's pretty dark.
That is really dark.
Yes, well, we come by our wariness of mortals honestly, Grace.
But
That's
again,
all I can
so
think of
okay,
for
if
I'll see you around.
that
Oh, yes.
if that
that's where I'll be.
person shriveled up in front of this other person, like did they become that muse? I have so many questions. Okay, but we're gonna leave those questions for now because there's 11 minutes of pre-rolls. I'm gonna go ahead and pause here for a sec. And then we'll talk to Freddie, talk to Persephone one more time. If she has anything to say to us, see if she, we can maybe flirt some more. And then we'll finally talk to Pan and get this going a little further. I'm so sorry to kind of derail. I'm okay. I'm not sorry for derailing in the sense of I liked the conversation that we had. I think it was a very important conversation to be had. Maybe the devs will peek in on this someday and think about it. That'd be cool. But even if they don't, I'm glad we talked about it. It always gives me something to think on and to reflect on and just, learn and grow. But I did ramble for quite a bit. So, but I'm excited for the Pan quest. Yes. Okay. So we're going to take a quick BRB and then we're going to talk to Freddie real fast, talk to Persephone, and then we're going to do Pan. So, not in a smoochy way because I want to smooch Persephone, but I kind of want to replay this off stream at some point just to see what the Pan romance is like. But yeah, anyway, stretch, hydrate, take your meds. all that good stuff. I'm gonna run some ads real fast so nobody gets slapped with pre-rolls, and I'll be right back.